Hey there, and welcome to today's Explainer. Today, we're going to completely demystify the actual mechanics of wealth building. Now look, most people kind of just assume that accumulating wealth is all about making a higher salary or, just getting incredibly lucky. But today, we're actually going to look at the deep biological and psychological shifts that happen inside your brain and your body when you hit specific savings milestones. We're going to unpack exactly how crossing these thresholds literally transforms you from someone who's just surviving to someone who's actively designing their financial future. Let's get into it. So let me ask you a question. Picture this. You're laying awake, it's 3 a.m., you're staring at the ceiling, and your mind is just racing through every possible financial disaster, right? Like, what if the car breaks down tomorrow? What if my laptop completely dies? What if I lose my job? When you have zero savings, these aren't just abstract thoughts. They feel like actual physical threats. Your body is basically reacting to a broken transmission the exact same way our ancient ancestors reacted to a tiger in the bushes.
All right, Section 1, the survival mode trap.
Okay, let's dive into this and look at the actual biological reality of living paycheck to paycheck. When you don't have a safety net, your brain is stuck operating in what psychologists call survival mode. You are basically forced to play defense all the time. You end up experiencing severe decision fatigue like 50 times a day. You're constantly calculating whether you can afford the name brand cereal or if you have to get the generic one that tastes like cardboard. Or, you're coming up with creative excuses to dodge a $25 dinner with friends because it would completely wreck your budget for the week. This constant number crunching drains your mental energy and absolutely prevents you from doing any long-term strategic thinking. You're just totally consumed by immediate threats.
Which brings us to Section 2, the great car payment illusion. So what's keeping so many hardworking people trapped in this survival mode? Well, let me introduce you to the ultimate antagonist of modern wealth building, the totally normalized disaster of massive American car loans. Get this, the average new car payment in America has crossed over $700 a month, and that's just for a regular car. When we look at trucks and SUVs, regular, everyday people, teachers, nurses, office workers, are willingly signing up for payments of $900 or even $1,200 every single month. They're committing roughly 25 to 30% of their take-home income just to drive off the lot. It's wild.
Now, you might be wondering, how are they even affording this? Spoiler alert, they aren't. Not really. We've totally shifted away from the old standard of a solid 4-year car loan into this terrifying new reality of 6, 8, and even 10-year loan terms. Sure, extending the loan term lowers the monthly payment to a number that maybe looks manageable on paper, but it completely traps the buyer. They end up owing way more than the rapidly depreciating car is actually worth, getting stuck in negative equity, and basically creating this financial hamster wheel that they just can't step off of.
Let's run the actual math on this over a 7-year time frame to put it into perspective. Say you buy a $55,000 truck. With a 7-year loan at 6% interest, the loan alone costs $67,000. Now, add in some pretty conservative estimates for insurance, fuel, and maintenance, and that truck drains $130,000 of your wealth over 7 years. And at the end of the whole shebang, that truck is depreciated so much, it's worth maybe 15 grand. That is literal wealth destruction. Just, with cup holders and heated seats.
But consider this startling contrast. If you took that exact same $800 monthly truck payment and instead, put it into a simple index fund earning an 8% return, in those same 7 years, you wouldn't just have an old beat-up truck, you would have over $70,000 in liquid wealth. The opportunity cost of financing a lifestyle you can't actually afford is just astronomical.
So why do people do it? Well, it's a psychological phenomenon that I like to call automotive Stockholm syndrome. The auto industry is incredibly sophisticated. They aren't selling you transportation, right? They're selling identity, status, and this fantasy of success. And this deep emotional attachment causes people to aggressively defend their wealth-destroying car payments. They feel like driving a cheaper, reliable car is somehow a direct attack on their self-worth, but meanwhile, they are quite literally sacrificing their family's future freedom.
All right, let's pivot. Section 3, the $10,000 safety net.
Let's shift away from the trap and look at the cure. We're going to introduce the very first major biological and financial intervention, hitting your first 5-figure savings milestone. This is what we call the emergency fund effect. Saving $10,000 literally, and I mean literally, changes your brain chemistry. Neuroscientists have actually found that having financial security reduces cortisol, which is your body's primary stress hormone. And the crazy part? The vast majority of the benefit doesn't come from spending the money. It comes from the deep peace of mind just knowing the money is sitting there. It completely cures that 3 a.m. financial insomnia we talked about earlier.
Think about that dreaded check engine light popping on your dashboard. When you have $0 in savings, that light is a terrifying countdown to a financial catastrophe, right? You immediately panic about credit cards and borrowing money. But when you have 10 grand saved up, that exact same light is just a minor inconvenience. You're annoyed for sure, but you are not panicked. A 5-figure safety net basically turns life's emergencies into mere annoyances.
Now, getting there isn't easy, obviously. As our source material points out, the hardest part isn't actually saving the money. The hardest part is developing the identity of someone who saves money. Reaching this milestone is not some temporary crash diet. It's a fundamental identity shift that requires immense discipline and delayed gratification. You have to literally prove to yourself that you can control your money rather than letting it control you.
And the beauty is, once you establish this new identity and hit that $10,000 mark, it cures your decision fatigue. You no longer have to burn precious mental energy obsessing over micro decisions, like a $3 coffee or buying generic pasta. Instead, you free up this incredible mental bandwidth, which you can then redirect toward macro wealth building strategies. Things like optimizing your housing costs, avoiding those terrible car loans, and figuring out how to increase your income. Moving on to Section 4, the $20,000 turning point.
This is where we reach the next huge psychological barrier. This is the exact moment where gravity finally stops fighting you and actually starts working in your favor. Check this out. If you save and invest $1,000 a month at an 8% return, getting your first $20,000 takes about 19 months of grueling discipline. But your second $20,000? That only takes 17 months. You did the exact same amount of work, but your money is now working alongside you. Fast forward a bit, and by the time you have a $400,000 portfolio, your next $20,000 is generated in just 5 months, completely automatically. It's wild. It proves the undeniable magic of compound interest. The boulder is finally rolling downhill.
And crossing this threshold totally rewires your brain. You start looking for growth instead of constantly bracing for impact. When you have $20,000, unexpected events completely change shape. A dead laptop isn't a crisis anymore. It's just an excuse to upgrade. If a friend starts a really promising business, you don't just have to say, "Oh, good luck." You can actually sit down and evaluate if making a $5,000 investment is a smart move for you. You start seeing opportunities that people stuck in survival mode simply cannot afford to see.
And this brings us to my absolute favorite concept, walking away money. When you have $20,000 in the bank, you are no longer trapped in a toxic job. This is a secret superpower, guys. You can negotiate your career from a position of profound strength, not desperation. It gives you the confidence to actually ask for that raise, to push back on unreasonable demands, or simply walk away if you have to. And believe me, people notice this confidence. It creates this amazing positive feedback loop of better assignments and ultimately higher income. Finally, Section 5, redesigning your financial future.
So, what does this all mean for you? How do you actually apply these psychological shifts to redesign your own financial life? Well, the absolutely crucial point is this. Wealth is not about what you earn, it is entirely about what you keep. A person making $40,000 a year who consistently saves even just $50 a month is fundamentally closer to actual financial independence than the person making $100,000 who is completely drowning in luxury auto debt and credit cards. The difference isn't the income. The difference is mindset and intentionality.
So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. Take a look at your own life and ask yourself honestly, are your monthly payments just buying you a fleeting illusion of status? Or is your discipline and your savings buying you quiet, undeniable, permanent freedom? Because once you see the matrix of how money actually works, you really can't unsee it. The choice of which reality you want to live in is entirely up to you.